Today's lesson is from John chapter 1, verses 6 through 8 and 19 through 28. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify to the light so that all might believe through him. He himself was not the light, but he came to testify to the light. This is the testimony given by John when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, "Who are you?" He confessed and did not deny it, but confessed, "I am not the Messiah." And they asked him, "What then? Are you Elijah?" He said, "I am not." "Are you the prophet?" He answered, "No." Then they said to him, "Who are you? Let us have an answer for those who sent us. What do you say about yourself?" He said, "I am the voice of one crying out in the wilderness, 'Make straight the way of the Lord,' as the prophet Isaiah said." Now, they had been sent from the Pharisees. They asked him, "Why then are you baptizing if you are neither the Messiah, nor Elijah, nor the prophet?" John answered them, "I baptize with water. Among you stands one whom you do not know, the one who is coming after me. I am not worthy to untie the thong of his sandal." This took place in Bethany, across the Jordan, where John was baptizing. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
I wish we could worship together. I miss hearing, for one thing, the prayer requests. I always thought they were more than prayer requests. To be sure, the request was there, but in the request, we all received insight into what was important to the person making the request. The people who had crossed your life. In a moment, in a request for a family member or a co-worker, we all learned something of what was important to you. So if we were together this morning in this church sanctuary, I would ask you, how did you first learn about God? What were the first stories you heard about Jesus? And who told you those stories? My guess is some of you would talk about a Sunday school teacher or a member of or choir director. Perhaps some of you could not say because it was a whole lot of experiences that had brought you to where you are today. Though you may not be able to name who or when, nevertheless, there had to be someone or many someones who introduced you to God and told you about Jesus. The Bible lesson today indicates that even Jesus himself did not just show up and suddenly become a living reality. A living reality in the hearts and the lives of people. Gates Forest Church does not exist to have chicken noodle dinners or pancake breakfasts or as a place for organ music to be played, though those things are important. Gates Forest Church exists to let people know there is a God and to tell them about Jesus. Our Bible story today lets us know that even Jesus needed someone to announce his coming. So we are introduced in this story today to John the Baptist. And we are told in this Bible story that John the Baptist was, in a way, like Gatesforth. John the Baptist was to tell the world about Jesus. Now, here's something we must not miss. The lesson says one was sent by God to tell about Jesus. Now, do not miss this. This means that Gatesforth was sent by God to tell people about Jesus. The story says the priests and the Levites suspected something was about to happen, that God was about to show up in the world. So they were sent to find out who John the Baptist was. Might he be the person? So they said to John, "Who are you? Are you Elijah? Are you a prophet?" See, they thought maybe John really was Jesus. But we are told John was not Jesus, but he was sent to announce the presence of Jesus in the world. Now, listen carefully. This is an exact description of Gatesforth Church. We are not Jesus, but we exist to point people to Jesus. Sometimes churches get all mixed up with what they're about. Sometimes a church will get wrapped up in one thing, and often it's the wrong thing. I need to tell you that sometimes a church gets in what of the church is, forgets what the church is about. Got to protect the church parlor at all costs. Oh no, we can't meet in the church parlor. It might mess up the furniture or the church kitchen. I one time went into a church kitchen, and there on the wall was a great big sign called the 10 Commandments of the Church Kitchen. Number 1, if you get it out, put it back. By the time I read all 10, I tiptoed out, lest I mess up one of the rules. Now, let me say there's nothing the matter with rules or keeping the church furniture in good order. But when the kitchen or the parlor becomes the main thing, then we have lost sight of the main thing, which is to introduce people to Jesus Christ. You may not believe this, but there are some churches that would not want to have a pancake breakfast. Why? Oh, we don't want all those people with those bags and those boxes and those carts in our church. Some churches take the toilet paper and the towels out of the restroom after the service. Why? Because during the week someone may steal the towels or take a roll of toilet tissue. My, can you imagine Jesus telling the disciples to make sure to strip the bathroom because someone might take some towels to their house because the food budget does not allow for paper towels? Again, the main thing of pointing people to Jesus gets lost in so many concerns. There's a church not far from here that got all new carpet in the basement. And as the story goes, one of the members of the church, when they were viewing the new carpet, deliberately spilled a bit of coffee on the carpet and said, now we no longer need to worry that nothing's going to get on the carpet. We need to work together to make sure that the main thing is always the main thing. So please remember that John the Baptist was to point people to Jesus. And Gatesforth Church, when we are at our best, will point people to Jesus. Will you remember that?